There's a couple things on my mind and in my spirit today that I would like to discuss. One is pastors. Paul talked about it in Acts, that wolves would come into the church. And the difference between a wolf and a pastor points you to Jesus and everything that he does. A pastor is an example, but he's not the example. And the example is Christ. And even though the pastor might not fulfill all the things of Christ, he's always going to point you to the standard of Christ, not his own standard, right? A lot of pastors, they try to control versus just lead and love. And instead of helping people, they actually hurt people. So the difference between a pastor and a wolf, the wolf would be, you have to go through him. Everything's about him. The leadership's through him. He doesn't allow people to tell truth. He don't allow people to speak their side of the story. And he doesn't want nobody else in the room that's greater than him. And also a lot of this that God said. You know, when we say God says something, we have to be very careful about saying God said something, because a lot of times it's your own emotions that are speaking. It's your own thoughts that are speaking. So, you know, there's various instances in the Bible where God sends out deceiving spirits, and the spirits put lies on the tips of the prophet's mouths to deceive people. And in this instance, a lot of times they'll say, well, Holy Spirit, help me, or Holy Spirit, and then they say something that's so condemning and so hurtful that it pushes people away from the church. So if I'm a pastor, I'm always going to be pointing people to Jesus. I'm always going to be loving people. You know, Jesus is the good shepherd. He's the good shepherd. So how am I going to ever help anybody if all they ever hear out my mouth is hate? All they ever hear out my mouth is disdain. So a pastor is supposed to lead and guide, not control. A pastor doesn't control nothing. God gave us free will. So if God gave us free will, how is it somebody lesser than is going to control something? You can't do that. You can't do that. So if your church that you go to, your pastor is controlling you, or with thoughts of maybe kicking you out of the church or not being favorable to the pastor, he uses manipulative tactics to control you.